Today, I'm responding specifically to a comment. This is a follow-up to my ranking the Animorphs good guys by how evil they are. Okay, so I don't usually do responses to comments onto my prior videos, but I thought this one was such a good comment that I wanted to go through it personally. So I gave my ranking in the most evil of the good guys characters list a while ago. I had Axe at the top and then Toby and Tobias down at the bottom. So JT, who is a regular viewer of the channel, thank you very much JT, awesome, says, I've scaled things a bit differently. Not only are their actions and motivations accounted for, but also their ages in the case of Toby and the consistency with which these decisions were made and the impact. So JT's gone for a slightly different metric than I have. Let's see how it differs and the reasons specifically for why things differ. In 8th, so the same characters on the list, so the main 6 Animorphs, Toby and Eric. So 8th, least evil, JT has gone for Toby. She is the youngest and least experienced in the ways of the world. She learns quickly and occasionally manipulates the Animorphs for the benefit of her people. However, she is the youngest of her people that barely have the concepts of manipulation. She is possessed of a ruthless practicality to protect her people, and she lacks the ability to consider her people in the wider scope of the war. That mostly I'd agree with. The last bit I disagree with slightly. Lacks the ability to consider her people in the wider scope of the war. She was planning for after the war. She had this all going on in her head. It's just a shame we never got a narration to truly see what's going on in her head at the time. So largely I agree with that. I agree that she's at least at the very bottom of the most evil good guys list. So no problems with that one. 7, Tobias, who I put 8th. So I swapped. These are swapped. Tobias has barely been part of his own life, and I doubt that he was actually interested originally in more than dying in a grand last stand. This was not his entire goal, as he is only once shown to be suicidal, and that less a deliberate decision, that was less of a deliberate decision and more the equivalent of drug-induced confusion and mania. However, he wanted to give his life to a grand cause, and so he would do whatever was necessary to advance the cause, but never actually being in hope of winning. He commits few truly evil acts, but he is a dead man walking and thus is not interested in most of the self-centered, egomaniacal traits on this list. So quite a detailed one for Tobias there. Again, I largely agree with that. The whole idea of him being a dead man walking, like he's just accepted that he's gonna die, so might as well just do what he can for the better of everyone else around him. In a way, yes. And this is a theme now going ahead with JT's post. He gets very, very in-depth and basically summarises the evil side of each character here, which is why I love this comment so much. So he sort of goes at the angle with Tobias of, he essentially understands that his life is practically over at this point anyway. So that motivates all of his actions, which I can sort of see. I'd need to do a bit more looking into that one, but from now on is where it gets a bit more interesting in my opinion. So in 6, like me, put Eric. The Chi have been fighting this war for a long time and have few, if any, expectations of it slowing down, much less ending. Their actions and inaction alike seem to be winning a war that they lack a clear vision to prosecute. Basically what you said there is, Eric thinks this war's gone on for ages, doesn't think it's going to end, so they just sort of... It's just sort of the... I'm trying to think of the phrase, but they just sit back and do whatever little they can. Just, oh, yeah, I suppose I'll help you out there. What are you going to say, wife?
So how long has this war been going on? What's the length?
It depends. Are you talking about on Earth or in general?
On Earth.
On Earth, so it started in Vissa, so only a few years.
Only a few
Not
years.
many.
And they're thousands of years old, but they're using that as their excuse.
Apparently, yeah. Well, no, that's what JT says. That's just what JT says. But the war, what Yerk thing's been going on for since the 60s.
Right.
At this point, so 30 to 40 years. So that's a long war. It's not quite the 100-year war, but... Hey, moving on from Eric, you've got Jake in 5th. I put him in 2nd, sort of possible 1st. So what's your reason behind Jake? Jake is the least ego-driven and vicious. Yes, he devolves and becomes more issue-laden towards the end of the war, but he is about... I think what you're trying to say is he is not about his fame and glory, so just grammar aside here, but only the salvation of Earth. Granted, he ordered the flushing of 17,000 of the enemy into space and the starvation of hundreds more, but every one of these was accompanying a military invasion force, and as such were legitimate military targets. Much as Pearl Harbor was in World War II, the fact that these soldiers were blind, helpless slugs. Jake also manipulated and played his own people occasionally, but he is the leader and so much lead. I don't know what you mean by that last bit. I think the grammar let you down made that last bit. Saying, yeah, he's the leader and he manipulated his own people. As a leader, you don't want to be manipulating people. You want them to follow you. You don't want to have to manipulate them. So the fact that Jake manipulated them shows that he was failing in his role as a leader in certain aspects, of course. So I don't quite agree with that. Saying that, I'm assuming that you meant to say he is not about his, it's not about his fame and glory. There were a few occasions where he thought ahead of what will people think of me. So that was, I think, part of what was going on in his mind at the time. So I wouldn't say it was an overriding thing, like it was the plurality of his thoughts going through. But I think there was still a bit of, oh, what will people think of me going on in there. Ordered the flushing of 17,000 enemy into space. That's a big number. That's a big fucking number. Just picture it in your head, 17,000. That's bigger than the town I live in by quite a margin. So basically, fuck this town I live in. Flush them into space. Flush them away.
Is that all of Plymouth? Or Plymouth is bigger?
No, not Plymouth.
Oh, we could like get rid of part of it.
Yes, we could actually, yes. Yeah, some of it we can get, flush away, but some of it I quite like. I think part of why I rank Jake higher than you on this evil list is because I consider certain acts beyond the pale in... This is where it gets so subjective and so murky, because what if he had the choice to kill 17,000 Yerks, but directly at the opposite side... Like in book 41 where I had the option, he had the abort button, he had Cassie there. What if there was 17,000 Cassies hanging on Jake, save me. And there was one abort button that killed 17,000 Marcos. Help me, Jake, help me. What's he going to do? Press 1. Does that mean that he's I don't know. I don't know where this example's going, but it gets confusing, it gets murky, it gets subjective and what have you. Right, Rachel, number 4. She is the believer's believer. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. She loves both the cause and the conflict. However, she is aware that she is sacrificing herself on the altar of the war, gradually shedding her humanity to reveal the monster within. This places her just below the top 3. Yeah, Rachel's pretty straightforward in that regard. The war basically infects her and turns her into a war zombie. That's basically Rachel. Right, top 3. Marco hated the war early on, and he planned on quitting, even though this might mean the destruction of all humanity. It simply was not in his interest to persevere. He only reconnects when he has a deeply personal goal that he can achieve, and he uses the cover of war to manipulate events to that end without remorse or consideration of others. In the end, he gains his objective and also receives fame and glory besides. These he embraces with enthusiasm. These top 3 are the really interesting ones of your post and what made me consider doing this video. So this first one here, the idea of Marco only being invested in the war for personal, I wouldn't say satisfaction, that's the wrong word, personal reasons, because if you remember for the first 5 books he was very much on the verge of leaving. It was only very specific circumstances that kept him in for those first 5 books, and then his mother showed up and suddenly he was smack bang in the war. Okay, and when did his character arc end? 45 essentially. It didn't end in the absolute, which was absolute tripe by the way, and near enough filler for a book so close to the end. His arc basically ended in book 45. What happened? He got his family back. That's it. And what happened at the end of the war? He became rich and famous. He had a mansion. Now, my headcanon And what I do in fan fiction, what other people see, is that this is all a cover for his PTSD. But we're not really given that in the book. It's not in the main canon of the series. So Marco's character it's all about personal gratification, self-gratification, self-preservation, that's the word. I know it started with a P. And if the actions in book 5 didn't happen, if he didn't realise that his mum was in there, would he have stayed with the group? And that's an interesting question. Now, I'm not saying that Marco was always me, because that's not the case, but there was that certain aspect of him. He was a very A to B person, and a lot of that times it was down to what he personally required. So he is one of the more self-centered Animorphs in the group. He's not a narcissist or a psychopath or a sociopath or anything like that. But he has a bit of that side to him. So who did you put in second? You put Axe in second, who I put in first. Axe is the quintessential yes man, until it is convenient to shift loyalties, and always he inflicts harm on friend and foe without regard to feelings, ethics or morality. Having no moral compass, he worships only at the altar of strength. Now that, I love how you've summarised Axe's character there. And yeah, it's harsh, because remember, these are all good, these are the good guys of the series, and they are good guys. But these are the evil sides of those characters, and I think you've summed Axe's up pretty perfectly. He is the yes man. Remember in book 31 where he tortured Chapman, he said to Jake, "This is wrong, I won't ever do this again." Did he do it? Yeah, he fucking did it. Even though this is wrong, but this man over here, I know it's wrong to be stabbing him repeatedly in the shin, but I'm going to fucking do it anyway because frickin' Joe Bloggs over there told me to. Granted, Joe Bloggs, I don't know, has a degree from Barnstaple. But yeah, whatever. He is the yes man, and when things turn sour, he flips over and starts obeying someone else, regardless of the morality of that. So yeah, exactly. Now you've put Cassie in first. Now this is where the interest, I mean, it's all been interesting, but this is peak interest now. Cassie is the greatest hypocrite and most monstrous of the lot. Strong words, JT. She is more than willing to sacrifice everyone and sabotage any mission that offends in any way her highly flexible and changeable morals. Bitter. Crikey. Neither does she attempt to balance her morals with an interest as to which might take precedent in a given situation. The fact is that Cassie benefits more from dumb luck than she does forethought and planning. In the end, having reached the sight of the end, Cassie decides that her subjectivity outweighs the good of humanity and decides to abandon the team and thereby forces Jake to manipulate her into remaining. Cassie is a painted saint, excuse me my throat, a painted saint whose hands are stained with the blood of people. She was too morally good to aid, and thus she is the worst of them all. Damning words for Cassie there. A very harsh critique of her character, but largely based on truth. And you've worded it so well there, grammatical errors aside. Great post, JT, by the way, the whole thing, great, loved it. My throat is giving way at this point, so I'm going to have to end the video soon. Problems with being a smoker, you know. So you see her as this major hypocrite who is the worst kind of hypocrite, whereby the standards by which their hypocrisy rest are shifting. The base of the hypocrisy is shifting all the time. So one day she'll be saying something, the next day she'll be saying something completely different, which is largely hypocrisy, but it's hypocrisyception, really. Because she'll be a hypocrite and then... I don't know what I'm fricking saying, but she is the ultimate Twitter user, basically. She'll say whatever the frick she wants at the time. It doesn't matter what I said yesterday. Fuck what I said yesterday. This is what truly matters now. And why does it matter? Because I fucking say it does. Right.
Language.
That's... English. And that's what she does. So... yes, she is a major hypocrite. Now, I'm not as harsh on Cassie, hence why she's lower on my list. I'm not as harsh. You were brutal with that summary of Cassie there. But I like a bit of drama. So, yeah, I was very happy with that comment. And this is another invitation for you all to give your reasons for where you'd rank the Animorphs or this group of 8 characters in a list of most evil. Who knows, maybe in the future I'll do a who's the goodest of the bad guys. That actually might be a, I don't know, because the antagonists in Animorphs, they're all mustache twirlers.
Just Tobias, that's it.
Tobias isn't a bad guy.
Oh, you're talking about like the evil.
Yeah, I'm saying, because what I've done here is ranked the good characters on how evil they are. What if I ranked the bad characters on how good they are? They're all mustache twirlers, that's the problem. They're all a bit tropey. I don't know, maybe. If there's a call for it. If you want it, say. In the meantime, put your list. Thank you so much, JT. That was an awesome comment. So much so that I had to do a video just going over it and giving it my thoughts. So yeah, rank the Animorphs based on how evil they are. Thank you very much for watching. I hope to see more comments from you in the future. Ta-ra.